Welcome to today's webinar, SharePoint Workflow Automation. Our presenters today will be Kelly Crossley, JC Layton, and Andrew Ortiz. Please note that the webinar recording and slides will be sent in 2 to 3 business days. If you have any questions during the presentation, please place them into the Q&A form and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. Now I'm going to pass it over to our presenters.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is JC Layton. I'm joined by Andrew Ortiz and Kelly Crossley and presenting today. Tell you just quickly about New Signature. We are Microsoft solution experts. We have about 300 professionals in North America and the UK. And our real goal in life is to make sure that we are really high in customer service when we work with our clients. And our goal every day is to make sure that we delight our customers. Appreciate y'all being here today. Here's a quick rundown of what we're going to be discussing. I told you a little bit about New Signature. We're going to go through some of the automation capabilities of tools with the Intex solution on the SharePoint platform. We're going to run through that and tell you some great things and features and ways you can use the tool to really advance your business forward. And in addition to that, we're going to have one of our other experts tell you a little bit about some of the things that we have done in helping customers use this really powerful platform to drive their business initiatives. Lastly, we're going to tell you a little bit about a Kickstarter approach that we have to help you get started and how we might be able to help. And obviously, we're going to have some contact information, and we're also going to give you an opportunity to ask us some questions. So we appreciate the time, and I'm going to check real quickly. Somebody speak up or put in the chat if you're not hearing us well. I want to make sure the sound is good. Okay, fantastic. Great, thank you very much. So here's really what New Signature and Intex is all about, is really taking advantage of the Microsoft platform, 100% of the stack, and all the various products that are listed here, and really taking advantage of that to drive your business initiatives successfully. And you're going to find out a lot about what we can do on the SharePoint platform here today. And one of the things that we do when we're working with SharePoint and our customers is we take the approach where we're really trying to take some time to plan first, and that can be in the form of an assessment. We also include stakeholder interviews. We do a lot of requirements gathering, and we even do some mock-ups and workshops during that planning phase. And once we really understand what our customers' requirements are, what they're looking to accomplish, what business goals they're trying to achieve, not only from the technical side, but on the business side as well, what value we're delivering to the business, then we start building the solution, working with our customers to build the solution that actually meets the goals that we've identified in that planning phase. And of course, in that time, we're delivering the solution, we're making sure it's set up appropriately, we're checking to make sure it works properly, integrating any systems that need to be integrated to work with. And then, of course, we move to the operational side, where we provide ongoing support and maintenance if required. We can also help you manage the solutions that we deliver, and of course, as we go forward and more initiatives come forward, we can actually help you enhance the solutions we delivered. In addition to all of that, we put a layer of strategy and change management around that's really beneficial for our customers. So we take a strategic approach to how we're solving business problems using these various tools, like the ones we're going to talk about today. And we all know that things need to flex from time to time, so we have a very flexible model that allows us to change successfully and work with you as your business changes. So with that, let's get on to the show here. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Kelly Crossley. And again, we really appreciate you folks being with us today. Thank you. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks, JC. And good afternoon, everybody. So on this screen, what I would like you to take a look at and think about at the same time are the individual business processes that you go through and work with on a daily basis today. So in some of these areas, you'll see finance, operations, sales, and all of the others that are listed on the screen. There's some potential workloads here, but one of the things that I would like you to think about as we go through this presentation is, for the business processes that you do have today, what triggers them? What are they surrounding? Is there a specific group of people that have a need to actually access or be notified during these workflows? So when I say what triggers them, think about it like this in terms of how can you trigger anything that occurs within your environment. There's typically only two ways that happens. The first one is an event-driven process whereby data is added, updated, or changed. And the other one may in fact be time-focused, right? So let's say that I want to execute a process at 1 a.m. on a Saturday night, or at noon on Fridays every other month on the second Monday or second week of that month. You could do that as well. There's different ways to do that. So certainly what we're talking about with regards to the individual workflows is some of them on these slides, such as expense reimbursements that do have a form-based component, but also are driven based upon an event. Somebody's actually filling out their expense reports. Or as an example, another possible item there would be if you look at under the IT workload, that last bullet there, certificate expiration reminders, that's a time-based workflow process that you might be able to implement should you have a need for that. So again, what I'm trying to do here, at least on this slide, is to get you comfortable with the idea of that there are two types of workflow processes where they're going to execute two different ways. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide and then bring these concepts together with regards to the, how do you work today, right? So while I had mentioned that some of those are either time-based or in fact event-based, let's think about the event-based ones briefly. If I wanted to today, or if I was to ask you to think about a case where you could actually have a workflow that executes in a mobile environment, do you have that capability? Odds are most of the people would say no, unless they're actually using Intex today or another solution that they've custom built. But in the Intex environment, excuse me, what you have the ability to do is actually generate mobile presentations of forms and deploy that, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But one of the things that, another thing to think about is that, standard workflow processes are not easily dealt with today's traditional IT systems. Next slide. Thank you. So as far as Intex, as a partner of New Signature, Intex is a tool that we use on a consistent basis with regards to building business processes within our SharePoint practices. And that tool set has 5 major components. Okay, and I'll go through each one of these, and I'll speak to them in more detail as we go through. But the first one, obviously, is the workflow product itself. It's what everything was initially based upon and provides the ability to actually execute actions against a specific business process. Then you have the Intex Forms product that sits effectively side by side, but also is the primary driver for a lot of your user-based event-driven workflows. You have, and we'll go into that in more detail, but it's a very powerful tool, highly customizable, and allows you to present mobile content, which is the next piece, through any number of different devices, such as iPhones, iPads, Android devices, as well as tablets. So that would be also Intex Mobile. We'll get into that in a little bit. The Intex connectors, very exciting piece there. What that really allows us to do is provide a no-code solution to connect to external systems such as Dynamics CRM or Office 365, or even items such as DocuSign and things like that. We'll get into those in a little bit more detail. And one of the newest acquisitions by Intex is DrawLoop. DrawLoop is very exciting with regards to its capability to perform auto generation of documents. Now, let me give you a quick example, and we'll go into this in a little bit more detail, but do you have a case today where, based upon a specific event, such as data being entered on one system, you would like to have a document automatically generated with all the appropriate content and start that workflow process? That would be an example where you can actually take DrawLoop and do that automatic document generation, feeding it into workflow processes. Very powerful tool. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about workflow examples here. So I've got a couple of them up here. Leave request workflow, pretty easy one to understand. If I've got a request that has been submitted by an individual, let's say that they want to go on holiday, They would make that request. The individual workflow is going to start more often than not by the fact that that person made a request, used an Intex form, and that content, that individual information or metadata related to that individual request got placed into a list item. Okay, so at that point the workflow will start based upon that list item being added. And upon starting, it's going to send a request to that person's manager, and that manager is going to respond yes, no, and as such, that submitter will be notified and that workflow ends. That's a simple process with regards to workflows, but another one that's actually even more simple than that is the flexible workflow automation. This is also known as lazy approval workflow. So what you have the ability to do here is actually respond to tasks by email. So in the event that a workflow does fire, let's say it is in fact a leave request workflow, the manager would be able to get that task by an email. They don't have to access SharePoint, and it's certainly easy to configure, and it's available at pretty much most of the task actions. It's available in the task actions. So where I'm going with this one is that, it's also possible that you have a timed process to that where if you don't care to respond, it'll go ahead and actually force an approval if nobody has responded over the course of a day. So that's what the concept is behind lazy approval. One of the other possible types of workflows that are out there, getting to the more complex end, let's say that I have a case where I have 5 to 6 different processes that are going to operate simultaneously along a single workflow thread. That's known as a state machine workflow. That's probably the top end of all of the workflow types that you would ever build. But as an example, if I'm going through an HR process that has the purpose of hiring someone, I might have different portions of the organization involved in that process, all simultaneously executing different actions. So while the technical arm may be technically qualifying that individual, the marketing arm might be interviewing them on a non-technical process. HR might be working through paperwork and so on. So at the end of a very short process, as soon as everybody has completed their processes, that workflow would finish. But it is an example of where you can have multiple threads operating in tandem to complete a workflow process. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So as far as forms go, I had mentioned this a little bit earlier, but forms are incredibly easy to use. You have the ability to create a form against any list, or in some cases not even against a list. You can have other cases where you could build these forms, but the idea is effectively they offer greater flexibility than the out-of-the-box SharePoint forms do. They have field dependency, meaning I could actually cascade information. In fact, if you look at the box right under where it says made easy, you can see that city is actually showing up based upon the individual country that was selected. That's what we call field dependency based upon another field's contents. We have the ability to filter form fields. We can certainly show relevant data, and by relevant data it also ties directly into that type of field dependency, but it goes further than that where necessary, and certainly again they're easy to use. One thing that's important to note, and I'll get into this on the next slide, but in the forms process, this is where you also have the ability to select different presentation types based upon, say as an example, the individual mobile device that you're targeting. Where we're going with this one, and let's go ahead and navigate to the next slide, please. Thank you. On mobile capabilities, the individual presentation of a mobile form is going to vary between the type of form factor that that device has. As an example, an iPad has, or any other kind of tablet, has a greater screen depth to it, and by depth I mean just how wide and easily viewable data is at large on that, whereas something on the order of an iPhone or any other kind of phone has a smaller experience. What you're able to do with that is provide different capabilities based upon that individual's needs. Now, that's what we're talking about when we say native mobile experiences. So as part of native mobile experiences, you have the ability to feed photos, videos, add annotations to the drawing, as well as an example, if I happen to have, if I wanted to add a photo, I could actually also add specific GPS location trackers to it so that you could see where I was taking that photo at the time. You might think, well, why would I need something like this? In some of New Signature's clients, we've operated in an energy and construction space. They would go out and actually take pictures of the site, and that site would actually be tagged with GPS coordinates so that during training, should any kind of issues occur, they know exactly where they are. It's another way to do safety inspections. So as an example, if you have a case where an individual safety inspector is going through, and that's part of their job, is to take images of the site as they're going through it. They could obviously GPS tag it at that point. They could add annotations to the photo and so on. As far as real-time synchronization goes, if you'll notice that on the left, what that allows us to do is actually modify workflows or forms at a development level, and once those are actually published, they are immediately available to the user population as a whole. Okay, so that's the big one there. You have the ability to kick off, track, delegate tasks, all of that from your mobile device. So what we're talking about in real-time synchronization is not only the ability to update this individual forms and workflows, but the availability for the end users to operate like they're sitting right in front of their PCs or laptops. Any of those kind of capabilities are possible. So moving on to the connectors on the next slide. Connectors to the external systems. This is, as someone who goes through the process of implementing Intex solutions on a consistent basis, these are huge. It saves a lot of time with regards to connecting the external systems. If you recall the old days of IT development, everything would have to be written independently. We do not have to do that anymore. Connectors to external systems here allow us to connect to all of these individual items that you see bulleted. Really no code connectors. The ones that we see frequently used are things such as DocuSign. DocuSign combined with Office 365 is huge with regards to specific scenarios like responding to statement of work requests or contract negotiations or those kind of things where legal verification of an individual's identity is required. DocuSign provides that kind of thing, and that connector is easily downloadable from the Intex end, or actually from Office 365. You'll be able to actually download DocuSign. Once you've installed Intex, you'll have those kind of connectors in place. And finally, let's go on to the next slide. Draw loop document automation. Again, as you probably heard a little bit earlier when I was speaking about draw loop, this is the next big thing with regards to automation processes within Intex and certainly Office 365 as a whole. So what you have the capability to do, if you look at the white area in the slide, is you can take any kind of data, as an example, data coming from Salesforce or Dynamics CRM, bring that into any type of document and send it out through any other kind of modality that you might think of. The key with document automation utilizing draw loop is you have the capability at this point to drive a significantly greater degree of consistency based upon the content that is entered. So let me put it in context of a specific SharePoint environment, bringing in a draw loop for that. Let's say, for example, I have a document, or I'm sorry, I've got data within Dynamics CRM related to a sales process. I would have the ability, based upon that piece of, or that individual item changing within Dynamics CRM, have a workflow generate out of that, bring in that data to the draw loop process. Based upon a specific Word document template process, I could have that information automatically fed in, create that document, and then as necessary, it either goes to someone else for final approval and then delivery, or straight to additional delivery. Another area that this might be very helpful is in the medical space. Think about it in terms of transcription and medical records. If I have an individual physician who's actually doing transcription, that transcriptionist could be entering data into their individual environment, whether it be in Office 365, SharePoint Online, putting their content directly in there, and the export of that could actually go directly into a Word document and then placed into a medical repository, a medical records repository. So hopefully that provides you some context with regards to the many different types of things that you can do with Intex workflow forms, their mobile capabilities, all of the connectors that they have, as well as the draw loop automation processes. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Ortiz so that he can explain in more detail some of our specific experience with regards to solutions. Andrew? Andrew, are you muted by chance?
Hi, sorry everyone. Can you hear me now?
We can, thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Okay, so just gonna jump right into it. So these, just going through some of the clients that we've worked with in the past, I wanted to talk briefly about the experience that we went through and the nature of some of those projects. I'm not going to go too detailed into the detail level of the forms and workflows. Some of them, there were multiple forms, multiple workflows. So just starting off, Alliance Pipeline, we've done quite a bit of work with them. We worked with them on their SharePoint.
We may have lost your audio. I may not be the only one not hearing you. Be patient while we see if Andrew can get his audio back. Thank you.
Thanks for your patience, everybody.
Yeah. Sorry about that. My Skype crashed on me. Can everyone see the content still? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, Andrew, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you can see. Okay, great. So I apologize once again for my Skype crashing. Just going back to Alliance Pipeline. So Alliance it's a large natural gas pipeline company. They distribute over 1.6 billion cubic feet of natural gas from Canada, from BC, Northwest Alberta, right through North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa. And some of the work that we've done with them, we started working with them on SharePoint 2010 around web content management. We helped move them to SharePoint 2013 on Azure. And where Intex became important was for a project around automated project delivery lifecycle. So one of the key pieces that we did through this project is, we had to envision how they wanted their project delivery lifecycle to be presented. So we went through that envisioning phase with the client, which is typical, because this was not just about Intex. It was about working within their intranet, working within SharePoint, ensuring that they can see all of the key information that they needed for PMO status and reports and so forth. And coming out of this, we were able to achieve quite a number of outcomes that we felt were of high value to the client. as JC mentioned, one of the things that we did was they leveraged our Intex Kickstarter program, which we will go into later on in this presentation. But key pieces of data was feeding into the landing pages with reports. They were able to incorporate project site templates for consistent, repeatable framework around creating projects and initiating project requests. So we took one of their existing methodologies and practices, and we worked with them to automate this within SharePoint using the tools readily available within Intex. Just moving quickly on to HOOP, which is Healthcare Ontario Pension Plan, Healthcare of Ontario Pension Plan. They're a large, one of Canada's largest pension funds companies that manage, I think the number is billions in assets. So we've got a long experience with them. They're a great client. We've done a number of different initiatives with them around the social intranet, and we've done quite a bit of work with them. And they're a smart group of folks over there at Hoop. And in this particular project, they actually took on a lot of the work around the forms and workflows, and really our role was to help with the training, assisting with those jazz sessions, understanding their risk methodology to an extent where they were able to become self-sufficient. And I think since then they have taken on that on their own, pretty much, adopting Intex as a key piece, a key tool for their risk methodology. And this was a methodology where it gave them the ability to, have various levels of escalation based on severities, so that the right people were getting the right information to make, key decisions around risk management. I don't have any screenshots to show you, but just to give you a sense of how we can help assist with some of those areas where the clients can take on a portion of that work, and we our goal is to get you self-sufficient as much as feasibly possible, and if that's not possible, we also can help to build out those forms and workflows. And last of all is Indigo. They're one of Canada's largest retailers. They have one of the largest inventory of products in the world, something like 4 million since I last saw the number, but it's probably grown since. They were traditionally a bookstore that has since shifted to multiple wide various products. Again, a client that we worked with through our Kickstarter program. We started with a pilot of two very simple processes. As you can see, this was the time away sort of vacation request, and our goal was to achieve business automation. So coming out of those two pilots, and again, they were one of the earlier adopters of Office 365 and the Intex online version. Since then, we've continued to work with them. We've built some additional forms and workflows, which are key to their promotion of this goose. So, involving everyone from HR, finance, marketing, legal, like you can name whoever needs to be involved in, making sure that information is communicated, the finances are right, the legal information, everything that needs to be, properly organized. We've got this complex form and workflow that really pushes the limits of Intex, and we continue to work on it. The next stages are being discussed as we speak. So it is something that is evolving, and it's becoming, one of those things that is going to be a key driver for Indigo going forward in the future. And that's sort of it for the showcase of existing work that we've done. So I'm going to hand it over to JC, and he's going to go in and talk a bit about our Kickstarter program.
Thank you, Kelly and Andrew. Forgive me while I get back to my place here on the slide. Give me just 1 second. And while I'm going through this, keep in mind you will get a copy of the slides. It'll be posted shortly after our presentation, and I believe the audio recording as well. So just very quickly, one other statement I'll make is that as you've seen some of the capabilities from Kelly and Andrew, it's really important to note that while the Intex product can handle a very, very complex scenario within your business, it is actually really easy to use as well. And Andrew mentioned it before. One of our goals is not only to help you build a solution that makes the most sense for your business to really drive forward the business initiatives, but it also gives you the ability to work with it going forward. In our business, we're always here to help our customers, but we really want to try to help you take advantage of the tools that you've invested in. And so one of the ways we do that is through our Kickstarter program. And really the goal is to help give you advice and coaching and mentoring on how to take advantage of the investment you've made in your Intex tool set. So at a high level approach, what we're doing here is we're offering you our time. We're not building a solution per se, but again, this is a collaborative effort for us to work with you, teach you and mentor you on how to take advantage of the platform, but also allow you to do some work at the same time so you're building your knowledge base. You're going to identify and document some workflow processes that we can help you with. We're going to have a consultant give you their time and review how the process is documented, maybe make some suggestions on how we can make it better, make it more complete. We'll coach you through identifying the processes and forms and calendar scenarios that exist for solving your problem, and then you're actually going to, with our help and coaching, implement on your own the workflows that we've identified. And again, this is really, really important because you're going to find very quickly as you engage with us and your tool set that is not difficult to work with. It can handle very complex scenarios, but it's one that's designed for and really built its premise on helping others inside your organization take advantage of the investment that you've made. So as we roll through an engagement in the Kickstarter scenario, we have a list of activities that we will conduct and you will do as well. And you'll see the list here. Remember, you're going to get a list of these slides. I'm not going to read them all off. But we're going to identify some things that we can help you with, help you get it set up, make sure it's in the right format for what you're trying to accomplish. And then you've got a list of things that you're going to help with there, and we're going to work collaboratively together. And the great thing is that in a very short period of time, you're not only going to have workflows assessed and set up, you're going to have some great coaching sessions with our experts, and you're going to have some great knowledge transfer that happens. On your side, you're going to get the licenses implemented the way you've purchased them. You're going to have great definition around the forms and workflows that we've identified, and they're going to be implemented and tested, and you're going to be able to work with them. And that's a great way to create user adoption as well inside your organization. We can also come alongside you and provide some optional items around configuration. If you want to, as Kelly mentioned, there's a great mobile client that's involved. If there's some mobile scenarios, we can help identify those. We're here to help, but we're also here to help you take advantage yourself. So from the setups, the security, the alerting, beyond the basic setup, we can help you with those things as well. And there are a couple of assumptions that we make when we work with you. I'll let you read these as you like. But again, as we're kind of finishing up our presentation here, and we'll allow you to ask questions here in just a moment, I think it's really, really important to emphasize that we have great ways to bring solutions to help you solve your business problems, but the real key is for us as we work with our customers to help you identify the true business benefit that you're going to get from implementing these solutions. If we have done that, then we've really done our jobs, making sure we take the business need that you've described and bring you a solution and help you work with a solution that helps you really take advantage of not only what you've purchased, but deliver real business value to your organization. And that's in the form of return time, increased efficiencies, and obviously helping you serve your customers, whether those be internal folks, external, or both. So again, we really appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. You will be able to send us any questions that you have to the email address on the screen. We are going to have the presentation in its entirety presented back out to you. And at this point, I'll turn it back over to our team to finish up, and I think we're available to answer some questions as well, so we'd be happy to do that.
Thanks, JC. If everybody could go to the chat box on the left, you can type in your questions there, and JC and Kelly and Andrew can answer them.
And while we're getting started and while people are actually putting in some questions there, this is Kelly again, by the way. What I would like to do is actually speak briefly also about something new at Intex, which is a change in their pricing model. I'm not going to get into the pricing model today, but one of the things I want to speak to is at a high level, the kind of things that have changed. Previously, their pricing model was based upon an example. It was very user-based pricing. That user-based pricing has been changed to the point where it's very workflow-based pricing with a set of individual actions that you would be able to apply to workflows as well as forms. So they're basically bundling all of these up so that you could use them more effectively, that they're more flexible usage today. So even at its starter of 5 workflows as an example, if you were to actually go through and acquire licensing for 5 individual workflows, what you get out of that, excuse me, is that for any one workflow, you're going to get 50 custom actions. So as an example, when we're talking about document connectors or specific email tasks or what have you, every individual workflow has 50 individual actions that can be, and I emphasize can be, associated with it. So if I was to utilize or purchase 5 workflows as an example, I would have a total of 250 actions upon which to work with. The best way that I've told my customers in the recent, since the recent change is actually, it's very similar. If you've got children, you're familiar with little Lego boxes. You can build individual custom products. And imagine, if you will, that each one of these has 50 items in it, and you buy 5 of them. That said, your child, or if you were to do this workflow with 250 items, or a bunch of little ones that might not have 50 apiece, or do whatever I wish with them. But the idea is that those individual custom actions can be used as to where you need it. Now, the other aspect of that is forms, right? So every individual workflow has the capability of having 5 forms go with it. That's quite a lot of forms. And that's, again, you may not, in fact, I've not had a case where I've worked on a client where we've used all the possible forms that are available. We're talking about pretty much every type of presentation layer, as well as, edit forms on the standard desktop, that kind of thing. So just think about those kind of flexibility capabilities when you're working through a licensing process, and know that not only is the tool itself flexible with regards to how we use it on a daily basis, but also in its pricing structure. So,
thanks, Kelly. What questions might we have?
So we do have one question for Kelly. Kelly, in the Intex capabilities slide, you mentioned real-time synchronization. Can you please go into more detail and describe how that may work?
Sure. So when we're talking about real-time synchronization, and what we're really speaking to there is that there's 2 models, right? So the first one, and I'll speak to real-time synchronization here in 2 different ways. The first one is that real-time synchronization via a mobile device is accessing Intex servers that exist in the cloud in order to store their form data. And really what I'm talking about there is, think about it like this. If that individual tablet, desktop is not even signed in or not signed in to the actual tenant that it belongs to, they can still hit that Intex mobile form and put in data, and it can be done in an offline mode as well if necessary. But the idea there is that synchronization happens not only, it's predominantly occurs due to Nintex servers that are in the place. It's called Nintex Live. And then Live is kind of an acronym. I believe that it's been supplanted just by Nintex Mobile at large. But the whole idea there is effectively your data will actually live up inside of, as an example, Office 365 and accessed in real time through Nintex Mobile. That's from a data perspective. The same thing goes for the forms that you place up there. Those individual forms would also be accessed on that server. So hopefully that answers that question. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Kelly. I have one more question here. I think this one's for JC. What would be the first step if we wanted to engage New Signature on that? I think speaking towards Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah, sure. Good question. Really, it starts with a business discussion. Really what we want to do in any engagement with our customers, whether it's using the Nintex product, SharePoint, or anything, we're really trying to identify what business problem we're trying to solve. And so in this case, it can be as simple as a brief virtual business discussion, either via Skype or telephone. And really what we're trying to do in this discussion is think about topics like this. How are you collaborating today, and how does that need to get better in order to move your business forward more quickly? What are the manual processes that are slowing your business down today? And this could be in IT, but we also find it across all lines of business, whether it's HR or finance or in healthcare organizations, nursing or physician onboarding. There are a plethora of problems that Nintex can solve horizontally as well as vertically inside of industry. So the manual processes that are really bogging down the business are things that we try to identify in this early discussion. What kind of information needs to be shared and who needs to see it? We're getting into a lot of analytics and reports now, and that information needs to be shared across platforms and across teams. And that kind of goes back to the collaboration statement I made. Who needs to see this information when, and what's the easiest way for us to route that information and present it? That leads us to mobile, and we've talked about it a little bit today. I think everybody would agree we're not going backwards with mobile devices. People want to use those more and more. So how do we deliver that information in a way that's useful and relevant for folks to get their job done, but also collaborate effectively? And then I think draw a big circle around all those topics and say, how do we keep all that information secure? It's a big part to the puzzle that we play with our customers, making sure however we deliver the information, whatever information that is delivered, that we are making sure that it's secure, and in some environments making sure it's compliant with any scenarios where compliance is required. So, and then of course at that time it can also include a demonstration of the product. And the reason why we like to have the business discussion first is it gives us context for our demo. If we just come out and demo something from the product side, it might add some value to the conversation, and Nintex is certainly something really cool to see. But once we've had that business discussion, we have direct context that allows us to kind of drive our demonstration specifically to how Nintex would solve your problem. So great question there. Thank you. What else?
I think that is all of our questions for today. So I just wanted to thank you all. Thank you, JC, Kelly, and Andrew, and thank you for our attendees for joining today. As mentioned earlier, the recording and slides will be emailed out in 2 to 3 business days. All right, I hope everybody has a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure speaking with you.